What is the craziest real-life plot twist story you have? Before we start with the first story, please hit a subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. When I was 5 years old, I remember going to a wedding reception for one of my friend's older sisters. I vaguely remember that it was scandalous that she was young, 18, just graduated high school, and he was much older. That's all I knew, and it didn't come up much in conversation with my friend or their family. 10 years later, I'm in high school on the debate team, just chatting with the coach about random stuff when we get to talking about the team before he was coach. He told me that before him, another teacher was the coach who got kicked out for having a relationship with one of the students on the team. He told me the names and my jaw hit the floor. That was the wedding reception I was at. Story 2. The husband of an elderly couple near me died about a year ago. The wife, for most of her adult life, had a pretty serious drinking habit, and her husband kept her on track. A month or two after his death, she found someone new off the internet. He quickly moved in, but something wasn't right about him. He'd often be seen buying multiple bottles of vodka and whiskey and taking them home with him. He was doing this every 1 to 2 days. Anyway, soon after, the police came asking people in the local area to see if anyone had seen the elderly woman and her new partner, as they believed they had recently got married. This could be because if she was to die, her nice house would be left to him now. He kept buying alcohol for presumably her, until 2 police vans, an ambulance, and crime scene investigators were seen outside the house. No one has been seen in or around the house since. At first, I thought he was trying to kill this poor woman off through her drinking habit, but got fed up and tried to her so he could have the house. But according to neighbors, she killed him to stop the apparent abuse he'd been putting her through. She is apparently in a secure unit now, where she will most likely stay. Story 3. Last year, my dad almost passed away a few weeks before my wedding. Had been battling cancer for years. He had major complications from surgery and was just not well. He ended up needing a second emergency surgery after massive blood loss around 2 weeks after the initial surgery. Fortunately, he was able to come to my wedding. Unfortunately, he has since passed. Last month, I needed to hire a nurse to work under me at the nonprofit I work at. I got great vibes off one candidate and really pushed to hire her. On her first day, we were chatting and my dad's recent passing came up. When I mentioned I was lucky to have him at my wedding because he almost didn't make it due to being in the hospital the 2 months prior, she made the strangest face. She was his nurse the night he almost bled out. She found him and pushed for the residents to come check him. I never met her because she works overnights. She saved his life. Truly believe that without her, he might not have been there. She never knew what happened to him because he bounced around different units in the hospital for the next 5 weeks. All she knew was everyone told her that he would never make his daughter's wedding. But he did. Story 4. My girlfriend of 2 years moved a couple hours away to go to school. We saw each other most weekends. The weekend before Valentine's Day, we were together, and it was great. The next weekend on V-Day, I go to see her at her parents' home. I see through the window as I walk up to the house. Her and her fiancé are showing her parents an engagement ring. Additional plot twist as listed in below comment. They got married, and after 6 years, she discovered his other wife and kids. He must have been a sweet talker, all right. Thank you all for the concern. This was 26 years ago. I'm doing fine. Story 5. First roommate in college was super Catholic and did not approve of my older BF. As an attempt to save me, she thought of inviting me to her friend's celibacy celebration while I was doing homework in the commons. A chill wind picked up, and I sensed it was time for me to leave. As I turned around, I saw the only doorway blocked by a circle of people holding hands and quietly chanting, "No sex until 30th. No sex until 30." As I approached to try to break through the circle and GTFO, their chanting got louder. I eventually got out, but this chick threw away all of my high-end sex toys and Suicide Girl book. I was done with living with her and got out after just a quarter. Over a year later, a few friends and I were comparing horror stories about roommates we have had, and I shared my story. A new friend told hers about a super noisily masturbating lesbian. None of the others had much to say, so they voted between the two. Mine won by a small margin, only to find out both of our stories were about the same roommate, just 1 year apart. Oh, also, she did not throw out my sex toys or my Suicide Girl book. Story 6. I feel and I have thoughts for days now. I have a strong feeling to end it. I'm being called crazy by my BF and dramatic, and I'm being dismissed every time I'm trying to communicate how I feel and that I'm hurt. He'd say things like, "Alice, you'll never find anyone like me ever who appreciates your art and photography." Ungrateful. He'd say these things and I'd feel really bad and guilty as if I'm not a good person, and I am bad. I am very reactive and emotional, and no, that's not me at all. Sorry if I'm just ranting, I just don't feel good, I feel awful. Story 7. I heard there was this couple who could not conceive kids, but their neighbor had like 3. They couldn't afford artificial insemination, so the guy approaches his neighbor and asks him to impregnate his wife because they really wanted a kid. The neighbor obliges. For months, no pregnancy. Finally, the neighbor's wife admits to the guy she cheated on him to get pregnant, and ends up the neighbor was firing blanks. So afterwards, this guy who wanted his wife to get pregnant ended up suing the neighbor for breach of contract. I am not sure what happened after that. Story 8. Co-worker breaks up with the bartender and starts pursuing me. Tell me the ex has been stalking him and won't leave him alone. He makes a point to publicly call out the bartender at work for being weird, and tells her to leave him alone. We started dating and things are cool for a few weeks. Then, he invites me over for a small party, and oddly enough, the ex is there, so I keep my distance from both of them as I have no idea what the hell is happening. A few hours in, the ex changes into pajamas, and I realize he got back together with her at some point and never told me. The next day at work, I found out he told everyone that I tried to seduce him, make him cheat on the bartender. They all believed him and treated me like garbage for months after that. His behavior towards me got scarier in and outside of work, and I couldn't tell anyone because I was the lying boyfriend stealer. I never knew depression before this fiasco. Story 9. About 7 or so years ago, I met this girl while at a mutual friend's house after we had all been out getting wasted at a nightclub. It was the middle of summer in Australia, so she was wearing a crop top and little shorts which showed off her skinny body and flat stomach. 1 month later, she posts on Facebook the following story. After being at said nightclub all Saturday night and most of Sunday, she leaves to continue getting wasted elsewhere. She starts to get sharp pains in her side and thought because she hadn't eaten anything for a while, it must be hunger pains. So she eats and it doesn't help. The pains get worse and worse until she finally asks her friend to take her to the hospital. Turns out she was in labor after unknowingly being pregnant for the past 9 months. The craziest thing is that even after all the drugs she had consumed in that time, she gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Oh, and has absolutely no idea who the father is. Story 10. One of my buddies was living in a dorm at uni his freshman year. A couple weeks in, his stomach was hurting constantly as soon as he would wake up in the morning, and he decided he should go to the doctor's. The doctor asked him what his daily diet consisted of, and my friend tells him he always drinks a protein shake right before bed. The doctor says to quit drinking the shake before bed and see if that helps. So my friend didn't drink the shake that night and went to sleep. He wakes up to his roommate trying to take off his pants. It turns out my friend's roommate was putting drugs into his protein shake so he could him while he was out. The drugs are what was upsetting his stomach. Story 11. I've grown up hearing about my Cherokee ancestry from my dad's side of the very southern family. One of my cousins has gone on a spirit journey and has spent a good amount of time researching his Cherokee heritage and connecting to our familial roots. The 2-minute version of the family story tells how a patriarch of my family met the woman of his dreams and moved out into the forest to live like a true Cherokee father would. He left the rest of our family behind. Several years ago, my grandma got very into Ancestry.com. As they researched our tree, they found that we actually have no Cherokee blood. However, my great-great-great-grandma was a black woman. I think that's enough great. It makes me so happy to think about my racist uncles and extended family finding out that we are 0% Cherokee and that my generation is 1/16 black. The further you go up my family line, and the more racist my family, the more black we are. I love it. Story 12. I taunted my little sister her entire life about the fact that she looked nothing like me and our dad. I always made your adopted jokes about her and stuff. It became an inside joke between us. I'd tell her we found her on the doorstep, and she'd say, "Thank God. That means I'm not actually related to you." My parents kind of frowned at it because it was mean, but my sister could take a joke, and she knew I was just teasing her. She joked about it herself. Found out a couple years ago that she was the product of a short-lived affair. My dad accepted her as his own, and my parents kept it a secret from everyone. They told her last year, "I still make maybe your adopted jokes about her, but they're 100 times funnier now." Story 13. I'm a brown dude. When I was going to college, both of my roommates were Chinese American. Once one of my roommate's high school friends, another brown dude, was visiting. He came to our room and asked which one of us was the third roommate with a Chinese last name, since he'd heard a lot about him. I felt like trolling, so I said I was. He sassed, "But you don't look Chinese?" And I just claimed I was half. Plot twist. This dude spits out fluent Mandarin at me, obviously excited to see another brown guy that can supposedly speak Mandarin. I was flabbergasted. I didn't expect my troll to fail so quickly. Needless to say, he outed me fast and we all had a good laugh. Double plot twist. I'm learning Mandarin now. Story 14. It's very minor, but it's something my friends and I all laugh about. We're all Catholic. Just for reference, I'm in a room with a bunch of friends, and we're supposed to be productive, but that never happens. All the boys are causing a huge ruckus, even knocked down a few tables while us girls were quietly playing card games in the back. We shared the building with a bunch of secretaries and nuns who absolutely despised us and would do everything possible to get us kicked out of the building. So a few minutes after table 2 gets toppled, the girls are all warning the boys that we'll all get in trouble if they don't quit it. Well, barely moments after that, one of the secretaries walks in the room, looks at the loudest boy dead in the eye, points and says quietly, "When you have a moment, come meet me in my office." Well, now we're all panicking, fearing that the boy just got us kicked out of the building. And we really needed that building, since it was the only one that could accommodate us for free. With fear radiating from his entire body, he leaves to go to the office. After 10 minutes or so, some younger kids walk in our room where we're still panicking and tell us the boy was on the phone with his parents, and it sounded serious. This just sends us into an even bigger frenzy. Finally, the boy returns to our room, holding a bright pink slip. At first, he looks traumatized, and we're all begging him to tell us what happened. He grins widely and says, "She asked me to serve a mass tomorrow." Story 15. During my freshman year of high school, my sister gifted me a Bible. It was leather-bound, and she'd written inspiring inscriptions on the leaves and underlined various verses that meant something to her. During my senior year of high school, I was in a bad car accident. I mean bad. I almost died and spent the majority of the year in the hospital or rehab, plus a chunk of the next year. Years passed. I found the Bible on a bookshelf. I'm flipping through the pages when I find some random numbers written on one of the leaves, separated by dashes. It was the date of my car accident, which occurred 3 years after I was given the Bible. I later asked my sister about it, and she didn't remember why she'd written that. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like more of this, please hit a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comment below. I'll see you in the next video.